In 1957, someone asked Jay Silverheels about playing Tonto, the role that made him famous across America. His answer was just 3 words: Tonto is stupid. That's all he said before walking away. For a man who smiled on camera every week as the Lone Ranger's faithful companion, those words carried a weight nobody expected. What was he really saying? And what had he been hiding behind that smile for nearly a decade? Jay Silverheels made history as the first Native American to play a Native character on television. But the truth behind his success was far darker than anyone watching at home could have imagined. He earned half of what his white co-star made. A director once had to be physically restrained from attacking him on set. And the name Tonto itself meant something he could never escape, something that ate at him every time he said his lines. But here's the thing most people don't know. He didn't just suffer in silence. He fought back in ways that would change Hollywood forever. Harold J. Smith was born in 1912 on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario, one of at least 10 kids crammed into a house that barely had enough for 5. His father came home from World War I with a military cross for bravery, but also with permanent hearing loss from artillery fire and a government pension of just $49 a month. War medals don't feed children. His mother used traditional medicine because doctors wouldn't see them, and what little the family had came from the land or from trading. This wasn't just being poor. This was surviving day by day while the government that honored his father's service left him to rot. By age 5, Harold was already showing the speed that would define his early life. He tore through lacrosse matches on the reserve, and by 19 he was playing professionally for the Toronto Tecumsehs under the name Harry Smith. His brothers and cousins played alongside him, traveling through Buffalo, Rochester, and Atlantic City, earning real money for the first time. $75 per game during the Great Depression was serious cash. Newspapers started calling him Silverheels after he sprinted past the defenders so fast it looked like his shoes flashed silver. The name stuck. Coaches started assigning 2 men just to guard him. But athletic fame couldn't protect him from what Canada was doing to his people. Residential schools were tearing Indigenous families apart, beating children for speaking their own languages. Harold's own sister came back from one of those schools unable to speak Mohawk properly. When the Depression hit, his family sank even deeper. They moved to Buffalo. Harold worked odd jobs and labored on farms, while his decorated veteran father could barely move without pain. His mother bartered away family heirlooms just to get food. That kind of poverty doesn't just hurt your stomach. It makes you feel like you don't exist. But what happened next would pull him into a world he never planned to enter. In 1937, Harold toured Los Angeles with his lacrosse team. During a game at Gilmore Stadium, comedian Joey Brown noticed him sprinting across the field and offered him a small film role. Harold performed a diving stunt that took 11 takes to get right and earned $150. That was twice what lacrosse paid. Something shifted. He got a Screen Actors Guild card and started calling himself Jay Silverheels. By the end of the year, he'd appeared in 5 films. Hollywood didn't welcome him with open arms. He worked as a stuntman, earning under $20 a day, and bussed tables at night just to survive. Casting directors made him strip to the waist like he was on display, judging his body more than his talent. He played unnamed Indians in film after film, usually without credit. Indian Scout Number 2, Warrior in the background. Roles that didn't even deserve a name. But he kept showing up. He learned his lines, he studied Shakespeare because a friend told him, if you can read that, you can read anything. By 1946, he'd been in more than 15 films and still went uncredited most of the time. He traveled across the South with his lacrosse team, where racism wasn't subtle. Hotels turned him away. Restaurants wouldn't serve him. He slept on buses while his white teammates got rooms. In Louisville, police threatened him just for using a bathroom marked whites only. These weren't isolated incidents. This was his life. And when he finally started getting credited roles in the late 40s, playing characters like Tom Osceola and Key Largo alongside Humphrey Bogart, he thought things might change. Then came the role that would define everything and trap him at the same time. In 1949, ABC cast Jay Silverheels as Tonto in The Lone Ranger. He beat out 35 other actors. For the first time in television history, A Native American was playing a Native character. For 2 decades, white men had voiced Tonto on radio. Hollywood's standard practice was painting Italian actors with red clay to make them look indigenous enough. Jay's casting broke that pattern. September 15, 1949 marked a turning point, but not the kind people celebrate today. The name Tonto means fool or stupid in Spanish. Jay knew it from day one. He lived with it, smiled through it. But that 1957 comment, those 3 words revealed what he'd been carrying. The show became one of the top programs on TV, ranking number 7 in its peak season. Over 8 years, they made 221 episodes. Jay became famous, but fame came with a cost nobody saw. He earned about $100,000 per season, roughly $850,000 in today's money. His white co-star Clayton Moore made double that. Exactly double. For the same work, the same hours, the same fame. And it wasn't just the pay. In the beginning, Jay and Moore didn't even have proper dressing rooms. They had to change in a gas station restroom down the road. The heat on location was brutal, especially in those suede and wool costumes that turned into ovens under the California sun. One day, Jay refused to get dressed, just stood there waiting. Moore warned him that delaying the shoot could cost people their jobs. Jay didn't move. The next day, private dressing rooms appeared. But the real fight was happening in the scripts themselves. And that's where things got
Jay had a reputation among directors for never reading his lines as written. They thought he was difficult, unprofessional. But the truth was simpler and more painful. The lines were garbage. Stiff, broken English written by white writers who thought they knew how Native people spoke. Me wait here, you go into town. That right? Jay knew better. He'd ad-lib instead, making it sound more natural, more human. Directors lost their minds. In 1955, director Wilhelm Tiller went red with rage during the shoot and had to be physically held back from attacking Jay on set. Clayton Moore stepped in and defended him. Let it play, Moore said. It sounds more natural. Jay had a point, but Hollywood didn't want natural. They wanted a stereotype, and Jay was forced to deliver it every single week. He later said he cringed inside every time he had to say those lines, but he kept going because walking away meant giving up the platform entirely. Then his body gave out. During the fight scene rehearsal that same year, a stuntman fell onto him. Moore noticed Jay walking strangely and followed him to his trailer. Jay was clutching his chest. Heart attack. Despite being a former athlete, a lacrosse champion, a Golden Gloves boxer, Jay was a heavy smoker. He missed 8 weeks of work. Writers explained his absence by saying Tonto was in Washington meeting the great white father. That line said more than they realized. At home, Jay was just Harold Smith. He'd married Mary DeMack in 1945 and had 4 kids with her. He joked on The Tonight Show that he married an Italian to get back at Christopher Columbus and called their children Indians. But the joke hit something deeper. His grandfather had been a Mohawk chief. He grew up on Six Nations Reserve. Hollywood's version of Indian was nowhere close to the truth he carried. And as the 60s rolled in, that tension was about to explode across the entire industry. By the early 60s, the Native rights movement was gaining momentum, and activists started calling out characters like Tonto for reinforcing old stereotypes. Russell Means, a leader of the American Indian movement, used Tonto as an insult the same way Uncle Tom was used in black communities. Jay found himself caught between the fame he'd earned and the image that fame was built on. Networks got nervous, roles dried up. Even his past success couldn't protect him from the changing climate. But instead of fading away, Jay turned towards something that would outlast any TV show. In 1966, he co-founded the Indian Actors Workshop in Los Angeles. It started at the LA Indian Center with help from Buffy St. Marie and others, holding weekly classes where Native actors could train, rehearse, and develop real skills. One of those future actors was Michael Horse, who later played Tonto in the 1981 film and became known for Twin Peaks. Jay taught acting, voice work, stunts, even nutrition. He wanted Native actors to get into the Screen Actors Guild, to land better roles, to shift how studios saw them. Not everyone appreciated his approach. Activists wanted boycotts and protests. Jay took a different path. He believed boycotts wouldn't work for Native Americans the way they have for African Americans. So he focused on what he could control, training people and getting them through the gates. He even ran a letter-writing campaign to President Eisenhower and top TV executives, pushing for better portrayals. The workshop tackled broader issues too, like alcohol abuse and care for the elderly. It wasn't just about acting. It was about identity and survival. But time was running out faster than anyone knew. In the early 70s, Jay took up harness racing as a second career. He trained horses at Hollywood Park and earned a provisional driver's license in 1974. His fame helped promote races when he toured back east. One of the horses later honored in his name, Hi-Ho Silverheels, broke a track record in 1996. His widow Mary and son Jay Silverheels Jr. were there to witness it. But by then, Jay had been gone for 16 years. In 1975, just as more serious roles were finally coming his way, he suffered a series of strokes that left him partially paralyzed. Another major stroke in 1976 severely affected his speech. On July 17, 1979, he received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He attended in a wheelchair, surrounded by native dancers, barely able to mumble a few words of thanks. It was quiet, bittersweet. A man who spoken so loudly with his actions could hardly speak at all. On March 5, 1980, Jay died at 67 from complications of stroke and pneumonia. He was cremated and his ashes returned to Six Nations Reserve where he was born. His son, Jay Silverheels Jr., picked up the family mantle and appeared in the 1981 Legend of the Lone Ranger, a film that flopped so badly it starred never acted again. But Jay Jr. kept going, walking the line his father had walked, being proud, being visible, pushing for better. Jay's name is carved in Hollywood concrete, but his real legacy lives in what came after. The Indian Actors Workshop didn't die with him. His influence spread through the rise of actors like Graham Greene, Oscar-nominated for Dances with Wolves, and films like Smoke Signals in 1998, the first feature written, directed, and produced by Native Americans. Jay was posthumously inducted into the Western Performers Hall of Fame in 1993 and the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame in 1997. His portrait still hangs in Buffalo's Shays Performing Arts Center. But beyond the honors and plaques, his influence shows up in every Indigenous storyteller who demands more than stereotypes and chooses to speak, act, and write on their own terms. Even though he cringed inside delivering Tonto's broken English, he never let bitterness stop him. In 1969, he appeared on The Tonight Show as Tonto, looked straight at the camera, and said, "My name is Tonto. I hail from Toronto, and I speak Esperanto." Even when the lines weren't his own, Jay Silverheels knew how to reclaim the stage. That three-word confession in 1957 wasn't defeat. It was the beginning of a fight that's still going today.